Hello there. I know I probably look like a mess. I didn't feel like putting on makeup for this or investing in good lighting, so you're just gonna have to deal with my face for the next few minutes. Anyway, Jesus, I can't believe I'm making my first YouTube video and it's about Chris Pratt of all people, because I have to say there are few people on this earth that I care about less than that man. He's always just been sort of there for me. Like, I get he was lovable in Parks and Rec or whatever, but I didn't watch it. And, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's one of my top MCU movies of all time. But that really wasn't because of him. He played like the same cocky white dude I've seen in like 300 billion other action movies. So, yeah. But here's the thing. This video isn't really just about Chris Pratt. It's more a culmination of things that I think have been building over the years and the whole cancel culture phenomenon or whatever. And I just kind of wanted to take a moment to talk about it and I guess unpack a few things in that rambling, incomplete way of mine. I did write a little script. I wanted that safety net, but I am not editing this because baby steps. Alright, so I'm sure you all know what went down recently, but in case you don't, there was this thing on Twitter, and maybe the other social media platforms too, but Twitter's the one I'm on. And don't go there, by the way. It's a nightmare that I refuse to wake up from. And there's this thing on Twitter where people were posting a picture of the four Chris's, being Pratt, Pine, the best one, Hemsworth, and Evans. And along with that picture of the four Chris's was a caption that said, "One has to go." And Twitter users overwhelmingly picked Chris Pratt as the Chris who had to go, which is deadass how this whole thing started, just in case you were under the impression that any of this was important. But the controversy didn't start just because he was voted the worst Chris. It was because of the reason, which is apparently the fact that he attends a homophobic church and the fact that he follows a bunch of alt-right social media pages like Ben Shapiro and PragerU. And I have to say, following a page on Twitter doesn't necessarily mean that you subscribe to every one of that page's ideals, but I personally don't follow people whose opinions I'm not at least somewhat comfy with. So if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably Chris Pratt is a big old conservative. So once the hoopla was in full force, the other MCU actors, they sort of banded together in solidarity behind their man. Mark Ruffalo, he is this big-time social justice activist, and he had this to say: "You all, Pratt is as solid a man there is. I know him personally. And instead of casting aspersions, look at how he lives his life. He is just not overtly political as a rule. This is a distraction. Let's keep our eyes on the prize, friends. We are so close now." And that last part is especially hilarious because no, we are not close. The parents of 545 children are straight up missing because the doofus in chief wanted to keep out the brown people. Black people are still being killed by police at shockingly disproportionate rates. Reproductive rights are being threatened on the daily. So no, I wouldn't call that close. That still seems pretty far to me, but I digress because the rest of it was dumb too. And Ruffalo wasn't the only one. Robert Downey Jr. came to his defense. Zoe, I think it's a good idea for me to be Nina Simone Saldana, came to his defense. James Gunn came to his defense. You would have thought the man was dying or something from all of these people coming to his defense. And this only sort of made things worse because at this point, people remembered that none of these dudes had a damn thing to say when it was Brie Larson being harassed for wanting more inclusion in film criticism, or Anthony Mackie being harassed for taking on the Captain America mantle instead of the white man MCU stans liked better, or any of the other times fans have come after anyone different. Someone had called James Gunn out on never standing up for Brie Larson, or Zendaya when she got hate for playing MJ, and he kind of hilariously tweeted that he had stood up for Zendaya repeatedly, and that he didn't know about any of the drama happening with Brie Larson. So the reason I can't read that tweet verbatim is because he deleted it super quickly, since, as a fan pointed out, he'd never mentioned Zendaya even once in his entire Twitter career. So yeah, it's all been quite a ride. Now, it's not going to seem like it based on what I've said so far, but I've gone on record saying that I don't really care for cancel culture. I stand by that. I don't like it, but it's maybe not for the reason you might think. I personally just believe we spend way too much of our personal energy placing these celebrities and businesses up on these huge pedestals and then acting super betrayed when they don't live up to that. We twist ourselves up into all these knots for the sake of being the wokest, and it just sucks the joy out of things that are supposed to be our escape from this bullshit, basically. Now, I will admit I'm not perfect at this either. If I found out that Amy Adams was a white supremacist, I would probably cry. But I do think as a rule, we need to stop forgetting that famous people, they're still people, and people are generally super capable of being flawed, stupid, and cruel. If the last 4 years have taught us anything, it's taught us that. I'm not saying that Chris Pratt is any of those things. I'm sure that the people going to bat for him are doing so because they genuinely think that he is a nice and pleasant individual. But here's the thing about that. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if he's a nice guy or not. Like, we're all in the middle of some really serious shit right now. Lives are being threatened and lost every day based on race, orientation, gender, stuff outside of anyone's control. And to align oneself even casually with an ideology that either chooses not to see those problems or who finds it more productive to blame disenfranchised people for those problems means you're going to find yourself in a position where not everyone is going to have space or time for you anymore. And honestly, people like Mark Ruffalo are going to have to accept that, I think. Ruffalo said Pratt just isn't a political guy, but not only did the people he follows suggest otherwise, the act of not being political right now is in and of itself political. It's also not a privilege that everyone has. So if you love Chris Pratt, if you just think he is the greatest, most talented, most handsomest guy, no matter what, then that is totally fine. More power to you, but nobody else is required to feel that way. And at the end of the day, Chris Pratt is a rich, heterosexual, cis white man. He's never going to be lacking in people who are going to love him. And chances are social media isn't going to give a single fuck about any of this next week. So for the king of wokes, Mark Ruffalo, and the others to come on here and say that anyone is wrong to turn against his friend is just sort of ridiculous to me. Especially when he couldn't spare that energy for others who needed it more. So that's all I really have to say about that. What do you guys think? Is Chris Pratt canceled? What does being canceled even mean anyway? Also, if you want me to make more of these, maybe one where I actually look at the camera, I'd love to hear that too. I've always been a bit of a dilettante. I pick up hobbies and drop them super fast, but maybe that won't be the case this time. I don't know. Anyway. Tell me what you think, and talk to you later.